If you were new to Team Fortress 2 but haven't played much of the game, you might have already seen this burly Russian mercenary. It might have been through animated shorts, rollicking Gmod videos, or some greater reach of pop culture, but you've definitely seen the Face of TF2.
We are Heavy Weapons Guy, and this is the Heavy Weapons Guide.
My name is Orchestrion. You can call me Orc for short, or Kestrion for long, and I've played a fair bit of Heavy over the years. This series of videos will serve as an informational guide to the Heavy class, especially to those at a novice level. Hopefully I'll be able to help those who've picked the big lovable Siberian get started on their journeys through this chaotic war-themed hat simulator. This video will be focused on explaining the two most impactful base attributes of the class as a whole: health and speed. These two are the features and traits that you will always get whenever you press 5 at the class selection screen. Before you waddle off into battle, not really sure what you're doing yet, it'd be valuable to know what your limits are. Let's learn about them. Heavy is a character of extremes. He's the slowest class, tallest class, widest class, and he has the biggest hitboxes. He has a base health value of 300 hit points, the highest of any class, but he moves at a rate of 77% the average TF2 walking speed, the slowest of any class. When a primary weapon is spun up, the Heavy's movement decreases even further to 47%. Slow speed across the board is your main weakness. Hitting like a truck after a sluggish start is your main strength. Heavy is Regigigas. Super powerful the situation is right, but only after a slow start. Some classes in TF2 come packaged with innate resources built into them. Engineer has Metal, Medic has Uber Charge, and Spy has Cloak, for example. Heavy also has a resource that he's centralized around, but it isn't one that's in your face or even exclusive to him. It's his health. Even though every class has health as a resource, Heavy's large health pool is the most important feature about his functionality. He has the most health in the game by a notable amount, and his fighting style is based on how imbalanced his hit points are compared to who he's engaged with. Every encounter with Heavy is an exchange of damage you take and equivocally deal back. Your pool of 300 HP is the budget to allow you to do this. That's why Heavy's primary weapon is a sustained fire weapon. The more health you have to exchange, the more time you have to deal a monstrous amount of close range damage. If you are at low health, it is a problem since your stock tools do a terrible job at allowing you to avoid taking damage. If you still have high health, you can tank at least 2 hard-hitting blows from most classes on the front lines while shredding them to bits in spite of their powerful attacks. It's satisfying as hell just powering through an unavoidable assault to win a war of attrition. It's very different from how every other class fights, and there's a novelty to that. Wow, Orchestrion, this big health pool sounds like a great and consistent tool for engaging on one-on-one combat. And it is, for one-on-one combat. Throughout this series, I'm probably going to use the term Unitasker a lot, because my god, Heavy does not have an easy time multitasking. When a Heavy is outnumbered, it means that bare minimum 2 sources of damage are eating into his health budget. Considering that most classes break your budget in chunks of 25% or 30%, this can chew through it way faster than you can deal back. Not to mention, your minigun can only be aiming at one enemy at a time, with no ability to pressure 2 directions at once on your own. This means that despite his massive health, Heavy is particularly vulnerable when he's outnumbered. So how does a good Heavy combat this? By attempting to avoid it from happening at all. It's best to minimize these scenarios as often as possible. Remember that you have team to credit, and avoid jumping into groups of enemies that your budget isn't big enough to sustain you for. You're going to be outnumbered eventually, so preemptively keep around some backup as much as possible. Working with your team is the best method to mitigate this particular reality of your specialized toolkit. Since your health is the central resource of your class, sources of healing are particularly beneficial for the Heavy. Keep note of health pack locations, friendly dispensers, and of course the iconic assistance of a friendly medic. Don't over-rely on them though, as you won't always have access to these healing sources, and a smart Heavy can still get the job done without them. If the current map or game state make these resources limited, consider equipping a lunchbox item in your secondary slot to better sustain your health pool. I'd personally recommend checking out the second banana in such scenarios. Now that you understand the importance of Heavy's health pool and how it is his combat budget, I ask you to picture this. What if he had an even bigger budget. Let's talk Overheal. I'll be talking about medic relations at length some other day, but for now I'd like to discuss Overheal because, well, Overheal can certainly make a heavy's day. Most mediguns can bring a full health heavy to 450 hit points, which will decay back to 300 over the course of 15 seconds if no damage is incurred. I don't think I need to emphasize how 450 is a milestone of surviving damage thresholds. At full Overheal, you can tank 4 direct pipe grenades, 4 rockets at max ramp up, 4 scattergun meat shots, 2 quick scope headshots, and 0 backstabs. 0 backstabs unless you're uber charged! Imagine an infinite budget for 8 seconds! Nothing has consequence with a $400,000 charge on Medic's credit card! If you're hankering for Overheal and you have the time to kill, I'd recommend waiting at least about 10 seconds from when you last took damage before screaming for a medic. It's much easier to be brought to full Overheal by method of those sweet, sweet crit heals whenever possible. If you'd rather increase your base hit points, consider using the Telokhranitel bar to boost that health up to 350 for 30 seconds. Bit less of an impressive capstone than Overheal, yes, but 30 seconds is kind of a long time in TF2. That extra 50 HP is another savior in the damage threshold department. Remember that health is on a scale opposite to movement in TF2, and heavy scale is pretty obviously weighted to the health side more so than anyone else. Let's talk about a speed, or lack thereof. From the very core of your class, you will always have the speed disadvantage, and that's okay. So what if you're always carrying around a Maverick M4A1 from Counter-Strike source? There always has to be someone to hold the title of slowest, and Heavy's obviously the guy you'd pick to shoulder that burden. To play Heavy at his best, you have to accept this reality. If you try to force Heavy to play like another class, you're just going to disappoint yourselves. Don't try to put a square peg in a round hole. With that being said, you probably might not believe me when I say there can be some dopamine to be had out of Heavy's low speed. Because your movement is so limited, every single step you take feels deliberate, and you have to use that heavy brain of yours to decide on the right moment to reposition. Positioning is one of the absolute most important aspects to playing Heavy, and having his escape options being lackluster reinforces how crucial it is to him. However, if you're repeatedly getting gunned down before you can get settled in, just remember that Heavy can keep his shotgun. It's his default secondary for a reason, and this channel will be a place to give the shotgun Heavy his flowers. The shotgun can be equipped by Heavy so that he can have a reliable piece of burst damage when he has to reposition. 77% movement speed is a hell of a lot better to retaliate with when you get ambushed than 47%. With a delay before firing, and a second of damage and accuracy ramp up. If you want to self-sustain your health, use a lunchbox item. If you want to deal good damage without worsening your speed in a firefight, use a shotgun. To thrive in the business practice of battlefield lawn mowing, the Heavy needs to be able to stand his ground and track his enemies. Heavy comes with a built-in 50% resistance to knockback incurred from taking damage. You are a ton weight, so your butt is meant to be on the ground. Rockets and sticky bombs have a harder time pushing you around while you advance. Bullets do basically nothing too, so if there's an incoming Heavy, regular knockback isn't going to be what stops him from approaching. There are a few exceptions that ignore Heavy's knockback resistance. Air Blast, the Thermal Thruster, the Force of Nature, the Short Stop Shove, and enemy sentry guns will all retain their special knockback and pushback properties. Heavy's knockback resistance is a bit of a double-edged sword. On one hand, this is a great quality of life addition, and it'd be so much more frustrating if your forward assault with the minigun was constantly bounced backward. That's why getting air blasted can be so disorienting. You don't usually get tossed around like that. On the other hand, keep in mind having resistance to knockback means you can't damage surf to escape nearly as well as the other classes can. I mean, you can't even jump while spun up. Being resistant to knockback just doubles down on this inability. If Heavy could easily rocket jump, one individual blast would not have enough of an impact on his health pool comparatively to justify the burst in movement. That's the consistency with Heavy. Any method that you have to increase your own movement speed will come at putting your health at risk. Considering that at most, these tools only bring you up to or slightly below average walking speed, you are likely to be damaged on the journey, and if you're gonna give yourself a shortcut, it has to be at risk. If our health is the budget, then speed is the tax. The more speed you equip, the more health is taken out of your budget. It's a fair exchange and a necessary balance. But notice how I've constantly made note that risk comes at self-applied movement buffs. there are no such risks at play when it comes to external mobility aids. The Engineer's Teleporter is definitely the strongest in this regard, as certain trips from spawn can definitely be a legitimate deterrent to picking heavy due to the agonizingly long journey. But other external speed boosts, such as the Disciplinary Action and the Conqueror, are nice improvements to your underwhelming mobility, although both are more useful when relocating between barrel spin-ups than while revved. So, that's the rundown on Heavy's most inherent traits. Knowing the limits of your health and speed will provide you the best foundation I can offer as you develop other skills. Embrace the contrast, and be the Goliath that all these Davids need. Thanks for watching. Until next time.
But wait! Do you fancy the source filmmaker work demonstrated in this video? Are you perhaps interested in having a commission done by Orchestrion? Well, here's your chance. I've started doing commissions again. Check out my social media, and if you see that I have a slot available, feel free to reach out if you're interested. Poster and profile picture guidelines are shown on my commission card here. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to thank my patrons.